Welcome to the Ramayana, stories of dharm and devotion. I'm Sandeep, your storyteller, guiding you through the eternal journey of Valmiki's Ramayana. Our narrative draws deeply from Valmiki's original text and is enriched with stories from other Indian traditions, offering you a complete and immersive experience of this eternal tale. Share this podcast with your loved ones and let the timeless lessons of the Ramayana inspire your journey. In our previous episode, we witnessed the healing that followed the Great War. We saw Lakshman open his heart to Ram, questioning not his intentions, but the pain his words had caused. We witnessed Ram reveal the burden of Rajdharma, explaining how every harsh word spoken to Sita had wounded his own heart even more deeply. We then saw a beautiful conversation between Ram and Sita, where they spoke not as king and queen, but as husband and wife. Sita reminded Ram of the sacred vows they had taken before the fire, of trust, partnership, and walking through life as one soul in two bodies. We saw Ram humbly acknowledge her wisdom and promise that from that day forward, they would face every difficult decision together. We then witnessed the gods bless Ram's victory. We saw God Shiv himself praise Ram for restoring dharm to the world, while Ram, in his humility, bowed before the very deity who forever worships him. We witnessed the emotional reunion between Ram and his father, King Dashrath, who blessed him to return as the rightful king of Ayodhya. We saw Ram's compassion once again when Indra offered him a boon, and instead of asking for anything for himself, he chose to restore the lives of every Vanar and bear warrior who had sacrificed everything for him. And finally, we witnessed the Pushpak Viman rise into the heavens, carrying Ram, Sita, Lakshman, and their companions on the long-awaited journey home. In today's episode, that journey truly begins. We will witness Sita remember the kindness of Trijta and see Ram honor her loyalty with gratitude and respect. We will travel across the skies of Bharat, looking down upon the places that shaped their 14 years of exile. We will revisit battlefields where mighty warriors fell, forests where friendships were forged, rivers that witnessed sorrow and hope, and hermitages where great sages blessed their path. We will witness Ram establish the sacred shrine of Rameshwaram in gratitude to Lord Shiv and see the mighty bridge to Lanka return to the embrace of the ocean. We will stop once more at Kishkindha, where old friends and their families join the journey, and we will retrace every important milestone of the exile that transformed Princess into ideals for all humanity. And finally, as the Pushpak Viman nears its destination, we will catch the first glorious sight of Ayodhya, the city that has waited 14 long years for its beloved prince to return. This is more than a journey across the skies. It is a journey through memory, gratitude, friendship, and destiny. Join me now as every river, every mountain, and every forest tells its own story. And as Ram's path finally leads him back to the home he never stopped loving. The Pushpak Viman stood ready, shining like a golden mountain suspended between earth and heaven. Its jeweled pillars sparkled in the morning light, and soft celestial bells filled the air with a music unlike anything heard on earth. Before boarding, Ram turned towards Sita. A gentle smile crossed his face. He softly said, "At last, our journey home begins." Sita looked once more toward Lanka. She said, "This city gave me sorrow, but it also gave me something I shall never forget." Ram looked at her with curiosity. Sita smiled and said, "Trija, every day that hope seemed impossible, she became my hope. She never allowed despair to overcome me. Whenever news reached Lanka, she quietly came and told me everything. She told me how Hanuman had crossed the ocean. She told me how Sugriva's army had arrived. She told me how Lakshman recovered after being struck by Indrajit's weapon. She even brought me hope during the darkest days of the war." Her eyes became moist. She continued, "If today I stand beside you once again, a part of that belongs to Trijta." Ram remained silent for a moment. Then he called Vibhishan. When Vibhishan arrived, Ram said warmly, Trishta stood on the side of dharm, even while living in Ravan's palace. She protected Sita when she could have remained silent. Such goodness must never go unnoticed. He looked toward Trijata, who stood humbly at a distance. Ram said, Trija, there is no gift equal to your compassion. But accept these humble tokens of my gratitude. At Ram's command, Vibhishan presented her with beautiful garments, precious ornaments, gold, and every comfort befitting a noble lady of Lanka. Then Ram turned once more toward Vibhishan and said, My friend, after we leave, take special care of Trishta. Let her always be honored in Lanka. Let no sorrow ever come near her. Vibhishan folded his hands and said, I promise, Ram. She shall always be respected as one who stood beside Dharma. Tricha's eyes filled with tears. She bowed deeply before Ram and Sita. She softly said, My greatest reward is seeing Sita reunited with you. I ask for nothing more. She paused before gathering the courage to speak again. Then she said, But if you permit me, there is one wish hidden in my heart. Ram smiled and said, Speak freely. Trishta looked toward Sita and said, I have spent many months praying for the day when you would return to Ayodhya. If it pleases you both, may I accompany you? I wish to see your return, your coronation, and the joy of your people. Sita looked toward Ram with a warm smile. Ram did not hesitate. He said, Trija, you are not our guest. You are our family. It would make us happy if you came with us. Sita gently took Trijata's hands into her own. She said, You stood beside me when I had no one. Now stand beside me as I return home. Unable to hold back her tears, Trishta bowed before them once again. With a grateful heart, she climbed aboard the Pushpak Viman beside Sita. Only then did Ram, Sita, Lakshman, Hanuman, Sugriv, Vibhishan, and the others take their places within the celestial chariot. The Pushpak Viman glowed brighter than before. Its bells rang softly. Its golden wings seemed to embrace everyone within. And slowly, with the blessings of heaven and the prayers of earth, it rose into the sky, carrying not just kings and warriors, but friendships forged through suffering, loyalty born in adversity, and hearts forever bound by dharm. The Pushpak Viman rose steadily into the morning sky. Its golden body glowed under the rays of the sun as Lanka slowly disappeared beneath it. A cool breeze flowed through the open balconies of the celestial chariot. Everyone looked below in silence, each carrying memories of the long journey that had brought them here. Sita stood beside Ram. For a few moments, she simply watched the island grow smaller. Then she turned to Ram. She softly said, Ram, for so many months, I could only imagine what was happening outside the Ashok Vatika. Trija told me everything she heard, but I never saw it with my own eyes. She paused and then said, If it is not too painful, will you show me? I wish to see the places where this great war was fought. I wish to see where each of those who caused so much suffering finally met their end. Ram smiled gently and said, Come. He led Sita to the front of the Pushpak Viman. The celestial chariot seemed to understand his wish. It slowed its flight and glided lower through the sky. Ram raised his hand and said, Look there. He pointed toward the magnificent city resting upon Mount Trikuta. He said, That is Lanka, the city where Ravan ruled with unmatched power. Sita looked down. The golden palaces that had once seemed like a prison now looked peaceful. Ram's hand slowly moved beyond the city. Below them stretched the vast battlefield. The earth still carried the scars of war. Broken chariots lay scattered across the plain. Weapons glittered beneath the sunlight. Thousands of footprints had become part of the soil. Ram quietly said, This is where dharma and adharma met for the final time. He pointed toward one end of the battlefield and said, There fell Prahasta, Ravan's commander. A little farther away he pointed again and said, There Kumbhakarna stood like a mountain. Even after losing his arms, he continued to fight until his final breath. Sita listened silently. Ram then pointed toward another place. He said, There Lakshman defeated Indrajit. Lakshman smiled modestly and lowered his eyes. Finally, Ram's hand came to rest upon one quiet stretch of land. Ram said, And here Ravan fell. The Pushpak Viman hovered for a moment. No one spoke. The silence itself honored the countless lives that had been lost. Then Ram pointed toward another part of Lanka. He said, There, Mandodari and the women of Lanka came to mourn. Their cries echoed through the city. Sita closed her eyes. She whispered, I heard them. There was sorrow on both sides. Ram nodded and said, Such is war. It leaves no family untouched. The Pushpak Viman continued north until the endless ocean appeared beneath them. The morning sun danced upon the waves. Ram smiled and said, Look below, the great ocean that once stood between us. He pointed toward the mighty bridge stretching across the sea and said, And there is Nal Setu, the impossible bridge that thousands believed could never be built. Not far away stood Mount Mainak, rising proudly above the waters. Ram smiled again. Ram said, It was upon that mountain that Mainak offered Hanuman rest during his leap to Lanka. But Hanuman thanked him and continued forward without stopping. His heart knew only one purpose, finding you. Hanuman folded his hands humbly and said, I only did my duty. Sita looked at the bridge for a long moment. Then she spoke gently. Ram, this bridge fulfilled its purpose. Ram looked toward her. Sita continued, The ocean gave way for dharm. Now that dharma has been restored, perhaps nature should also return to its original form. Ram nodded and agreed, a thoughtful wish. The Pushpak Viman slowly descended toward the shore. Without another word, Lakshman understood. He stepped forward with his bow. Drawing 3 divine arrows, he released them one after another. Each struck the bridge at precisely the right place. Thunder echoed across the sea. Huge sections of the bridge slowly gave way. The ocean rushed forward, embracing the stones once more. Wave after wave covered the Setu until only the endless sea remained visible. Ram folded his hands toward the ocean. Ram said, May this place forever remind mankind that when people unite with faith, even the impossible becomes possible. As the last stones of Nal Setu disappeared beneath the waves, Ram stood silently, looking toward the endless ocean. For a few moments, he said nothing. Then he turned toward Sita. He gently said, Sita, before we return to Ayodhya, there is one duty my heart wishes to fulfill. Sita looked at him. Ram said, I wish to worship Lord Shiv. Sita smiled and said, The one whom you have always revered. Ram nodded and said, Victory belongs not to me alone. Without the blessings of Mahadev, this journey could never have reached its end. Before I return home, I wish to offer my gratitude. The cool breeze from the ocean carried the fragrance of salt and sand. With his own hands, Ram gathered the wet sand and shaped it into a beautiful shivling. Sita lovingly helped smooth its form. Seeing this, Hanuman immediately leapt into the nearby forests. Within moments, he returned carrying fresh flowers, sacred leaves, fragrant sandalwood paste, fruits, and pure water from nearby streams. Lakshman arranged everything for the worship. The ocean itself seemed to become still. Ram and Sita sat before the shivling. Together they offered flowers, sandalwood, sacred water, and prayers. Ram closed his eyes. He prayed, Mahadev, Your blessings have protected us throughout this journey. Accept my gratitude. May I always walk the path of dharma." Sita folded her hands beside him. The gentle sound of the waves became like sacred chanting. When the worship was complete, Ram bowed deeply before the shivling. He then turned to everyone and said, "This sacred place shall forever remind people of devotion, gratitude, and dharma." Everyone bowed before the holy shrine. In modern days, this place is known as Rameshwaram. The Pushpak Viman then rose once more into the sky. As it flew northward, Ram pointed below. Ram said, "There is the shore where Vibhishan came to us. He left behind his own brother because he chose truth over blood." Vibhishan lowered his head with humility. Soon, lush forests and towering mountains appeared beneath them. Then, an entire kingdom came into view. Ram said with a smile, "Kishkinda, the home of our dear friends." He pointed toward another hill and said, "And there was the place where Bali fell." Sita remained thoughtful. Then she smiled. She said, "Ram, may I ask one more thing?" Ram replied, "You never have to ask." She looked below at the city. Sita said, "The wives of Sugriv, Hanuman, Angad, Jambavan, Nal, Neel, and all those who stood with us have also endured this long separation. Let them share our happiness. Let them come with us to Ayodhya." Ram's face lit up. He said, "You have thought not of yourself, but of those who stood beside us." Turning towards Sugriv, he said warmly, "My friend, please bring them. This journey belongs to them as much as it belongs to us." Sugriv immediately descended into Kishkindha. He entered the royal palace with Tara. When Tara and he conveyed Ram and Sita's invitation, everyone's eyes shone with happiness. They said, "To witness the coronation of Ram and to pay our respects to Queen Kausalya, Queen Sumitra, and Queen Kaikeyi would be the greatest honor." Ruma and the wives of the Vanar chiefs quickly gathered. Beautifully dressed and adorned with ornaments, they arrived before the Pushpak Viman. With folded hands, they first walked reverently around the celestial chariot. Then, smiling with excitement, they climbed aboard. The Pushpak Viman welcomed them all effortlessly, expanding as though it had no limits. It was no longer carrying only heroes returning from war. It was carrying families, friendships, gratitude, and the beginning of a joyful homecoming. The Pushpak Viman once again began its journey northward. Mountains passed beneath them. Rivers sparkled in the sunlight. Dense forests stretched endlessly across the land. Every place below held a memory. Every mountain, every river, every forest had witnessed a chapter of their 14-year exile. Ram looked at Sita and smiled gently. Then he said, "Would you like to see the path that brought us here?" Sita nodded and softly said, "Our years in the forest were filled with hardship, but they also gave us unforgettable memories. I would like to see them once again." The celestial chariot seemed to understand. Its speed slowed. It descended just enough for every landmark below to be seen clearly. Ram pointed toward a mountain surrounded by forests. He said, "There, that is Mount Rishyamukh." Sugriv looked down with a smile. He said, "That mountain became my refuge after Bali drove me away." Sita said, "I know this place. This is where I dropped parts of my jewels when Ravan was taking me away." Ram nodded and continued, "It was there that Hanuman first came to us in the form of a humble ascetic. It was there that our friendship with Sugriv began. Sugriv and other Vanars got your jewels, due to which we were sure and forged our friendship and alliance to fight Ravan." Hanuman folded his hands. He quietly said, "That meeting changed all our lives." The Pushpak Viman glided onward. Soon a beautiful lake came into view. Its surface was covered with blooming lotus flowers. The waters reflected the clear blue sky. Ram said, "That is the Pampa Sarovar." His voice became softer. He said, "When you were taken away, Sita, I sat on its banks. Every lotus reminded me of your face. Every breeze reminded me of your presence." He smiled faintly and said, "I had never known what separation truly meant until those days." Sita gently held Ram's hand. Neither spoke for a while. Words were no longer needed. The Pushpak Viman continued its journey. Soon a vast forest spread beneath them. Ram pointed toward it and said, "This is Janasthan." His eyes rested upon one quiet place within the forest. He continued, "And there, that is where Jatayu fought Ravan." Everyone looked down. Ram continued, "That noble bird knew he could not defeat Ravan. Yet he did not think of victory. He thought only of protecting you." Sita's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "He gave his life for me." Ram nodded and said, "He died in my arms. Before leaving this world, he told me which direction Ravan had taken." Hanuman bowed his head and said, "What courage!" Ram replied, "Even in future, the world will remember Jatayu, not because he won the battle, but because he chose to fight for dharm." The Pushpak Viman moved a little farther. Ram pointed toward 5 great banyan trees standing together and said, "Panchvati." Sita smiled through her tears and said, "Our home." Ram nodded and said, "It was here that we built our leaf hut. It was here that we spent some of the happiest days of our exile." He looked toward another part of the forest and said, "And there, Khair and Dushan came with 14,000 rakshas to attack us." Lakshman smiled and said, "They believed they would defeat you in moments." Ram smiled gently and said, "But dharm stood stronger than numbers." Below them, the Godavari flowed peacefully. Its clear waters shimmered beneath the sun. Ram said, "There is Mother Godavari. How many evenings we spent upon her banks." Sita looked down with affection and said, "I remember collecting flowers there every morning." Ram replied with a smile and said, "And I remember waiting for you to return." The Pushpak Viman continued north. Soon another peaceful forest appeared. Hermitages were scattered beneath tall ancient trees. Smoke from sacred fires rose gently into the sky. Ram folded his hands and said, "This is the ashram of Maharshi Agastya." He bowed his head and continued, "It was he who blessed us and gave me divine weapons before we entered the deeper forests." A little farther ahead he said, "There is the ashram of Maharshi Sutikshana, and beyond that the sacred hermitage of Maharshi Sharbhang." Every sage they had met had strengthened them. Every blessing they had received had carried them one step closer to this very day. Looking down upon the forests below, Sita smiled. She said, "Our exile was full of hardships. But now, as I look back, I see that every step prepared us for the path ahead." Ram nodded and said, "Yes, those 14 years did not merely test us. They transformed us." The Pushpak Viman continued its flight across the skies of Bharat, carrying with it not only those returning home, but also the memories of every place, every sacrifice, and every soul that had shaped their extraordinary journey. Below them, forests gave way to mountains, and mountains to rivers. Every passing landmark carried a memory. Every memory carried an emotion. Ram pointed toward a peaceful forest nestled among green hills. He softly said, "Sita, there is the hermitage of Maharshi Atri and Mata Ansuya." Sita's face brightened with affection. She smiled and said, "How could I ever forget? Mata Ansuya welcomed me like her own daughter. She spoke to me about the duties of a wife, but she also taught me that true strength lies in patience, compassion, and inner purity. Ram nodded and said, "She blessed you with garments and ornaments that would never fade." Sita gently touched the ornaments she still wore and said, "I treasure her blessings more than the ornaments themselves." As the Pushpak Viman moved forward, Ram pointed toward a clearing nearby and said, "And there we buried Virad, the great forest demon who had once attacked them." Lakshman smiled and said, "At first, we thought no weapon could kill him." Ram added, "Only after he revealed the curse upon him did we understand that freeing him required us to bury him beneath the earth." Sita looked down thoughtfully. She softly said, "Even those who appeared cruel sometimes carried stories hidden from the world." The celestial chariot flew onward. Soon, a majestic mountain appeared beneath them. Its peak shone beneath the afternoon sun. Ram's expression became gentle. He said, "Chitrakoot, this mountain witnessed some of the happiest days of our exile." Everyone looked below. Ram's smile slowly faded. He said, "And also one of the most emotional." He pointed toward a clearing near the mountain and said, "There, that is where Bharat came searching for us." Ram became silent for a few moments. Then he said, "He begged me to return to Ayodhya. He planned to give up everything for me. He refused to accept the throne." Lakshman lowered his eyes. He quietly said, "I can still hear his voice." Ram smiled with affection and said, "My brother Bharat carried the burden of the kingdom, yet never called himself king. He is still now ruling only as my representative." Sita looked at Ram. She said, "You always speak of Bharat with such pride." Ram replied softly, "He deserves it. No younger brother could have done more." The Pushpak Viman continued toward the northwest. Soon, the beautiful waters of the Yamuna appeared below them. Its blue current flowed peacefully through fields and forests. Ram pointed toward it and said, "We crossed these waters at the beginning of our exile." Sita smiled and said, "It feels as though a lifetime has passed since then." Before long, another great hermitage came into view. Sacred fires burned gently beneath ancient trees. Ram said, "That is the ashram of Maharshi Bharadwaj. He welcomed us when we first left Ayodhya. And before returning home, destiny has brought us near his ashram once again." Lakshman smiled and said, "It is as if the journey has come full circle." The Pushpak Viman moved onward. Soon, the mighty river, Ganga, came into view. Its waters shimmered like liquid silver beneath the sun. Ram folded his hands with reverence and said, "Mother Ganga." He then pointed toward a settlement along its banks and said, "There lies Shrangvarpur, the kingdom of my dear friend, Guha." Hanuman looked down curiously and asked, "The Nishad king?" Ram nodded warmly and said, "Yes, when the whole world thought I had lost everything, Guha treated me as his own brother. He wished to accompany us into exile, but I asked him to remain and protect his people." Sita smiled and said, "True friendship asks for nothing in return." The Pushpak Viman continued its final stretch. Then, a familiar river appeared. Its gentle waters flowed peacefully through green fields. Ram's eyes became moist when he said, "Saryu, our Saryu." His voice almost became a whisper. Everyone looked toward the sacred river. Along its banks stood flowering groves, ancient sacrificial grounds, and temples that had served generations of the Ikshwaku dynasty. The Pushpak Viman slowly descended a little lower. Then, in the distance, white palace towers began to rise above the horizon. Golden domes reflected the sunlight. Wide roads stretched across the magnificent city. Flags fluttered proudly from every rooftop. Ram's face lit up with indescribable joy. He turned toward everyone aboard the Pushpak Viman. He said, Sita, Lakshman, my friends, look. His voice trembled with happiness when he said, Ayodhya. The city gleamed like a jewel upon the earth. Its beauty rivaled even Amravati, the heavenly city of Indra. For 14 long years, Ram had dreamed of this sight. Now it stood before him once again. The Pushpak Viman flew slowly toward the city that had been waiting, praying, and hoping for its beloved prince to return home. In this episode, we left behind the battlefield and began the long-awaited journey home. We witnessed Sita remember the quiet courage of Trijta, the one who stood beside her when hope seemed lost. We saw Ram honor that loyalty with gratitude, rewarding her kindness and inviting her to accompany them to Ayodhya, reminding us that true goodness is never forgotten. As the Pushpak Viman soared across the skies, we journeyed through the memories of 14 extraordinary years. We looked down upon Lanka and the battlefield where Ravan, Kumbhakaran, Indrajit, Prahastha, and countless others met their end. We witnessed Ram and Sita reflect not only on victory, but also on the sorrow that war leaves behind for both sides. We then saw Ram pause before returning home to offer his gratitude to Lord Shiv. Together, Ram and Sita worshipped the Shiv ling formed from the sands of the seashore, while Hanuman lovingly gathered flowers and sandalwood for the sacred ceremony. And we witnessed the birth of one of the holiest places in Bharat, Rameshwaram, where devotion, gratitude, and victory came together in a single moment. We watched as the mighty bridge, built by Nal and Neel, fulfilled its purpose and returned to the embrace of the ocean. We visited Kishkindha once more, where the wives of the Vanar heroes joined the journey, making this homecoming not just Ram's, but a celebration shared by all who had stood for dharma. As the celestial chariot continued north, we retraced every milestone of the exile. We revisited Mount Rishamukh, where friendship with Sugriv began. We stood once again beside the lotus-filled Pampa Sarovar, where Ram mourned Sita's absence. We remembered the sacrifice of Jatayu, the courage shown at Panchavati, the blessings of great sages, and the emotional meeting with Bharat at Chitrakoot. Every forest, every river, and every mountain reminded us that the exile was not merely a journey through the wilderness, but a journey that shaped every soul who walked its path. And finally, after 14 long years, we saw the first glimpse of Ayodhya. From the skies, its white palaces, golden domes, and wide roads shone like the heavenly city of Amravati. Ram's eyes filled with joy as he uttered a single word that carried the weight of an entire lifetime: Ayodhya. In the next episode, the journey home reaches its final steps. Before entering his beloved city, Ram will first seek the blessings of the great sage Bharadwaj, just as he did at the beginning of his exile. We will witness the sage's welcome, his divine hospitality, and the preparations for Ram's long-awaited return. And as news of Ram's arrival begins to spread, Ayodhya itself will awaken in anticipation of welcoming home the prince for whom it has waited 14 long years. Join me in the next episode as next phase of Ramayana unfolds. Share this podcast with your loved ones and let the timeless lessons of the Ramayana inspire your journey. Though the details of this ancient tale may vary across traditions, its essence reminds us of the enduring power of compassion, courage, and hope in the face of adversity. Until next time, may the light of dharma illuminate your path and fill your heart with peace.